Marriage, Divorce, and Remarriage, Part 3 by Donald Johnson, August 1st, 2010. This video series will form part of the cultural background for the website thewaythetruthandthelife.net. Steve Pinker showed that it was a hostile environment for millions of years, and women were taken by rape, pillage, and plunder. Those who had children, the children are often the product of violent rape, and the women were put into subjection of the tribal areas. Now, in this part, we have discussed mainly the differences in male and female behavior generated by the different temperature and daylight zones. The equatorial zone, mainly Africa; the middle latitudes, mainly the Fertile Crescent, India and China; and the northern group, which would be Europe north of the Alps, and Siberia north of the Himalayas. The northern latitudes, the behavior was modified in later times. They lived by hunting large animals. You can tell their homes are made of mammoth bones, the woolly mammoths. And these mammoth bone home sites were found in Remarriage, Ukraine, and in that area. These and other sites throughout Eurasia can be located by Googling Don's map. These huge animals, as they were hunted into near extinction and finally extinction, they had to travel further and further, and it took a group of men working together both to kill one of these animals and also to protect themselves against the wolves and tigers that were also hunting them. So it took group process and trust and loyalty and working together, not just to hunt but also to carry the meat. And then as the population of woolly mammoths depleted, they built ships to carry them. This canoe, with a length of 24 feet 9 inches, was found in a bog deposit on the Don River near the village of Chucha near Voronezh, Russia. It was made in 5,000 years before present. So they built the strength of oaring these boats and building bigger and bigger boats to carry the woolly mammoths. And as they went on the rivers, they might run into conflict, but they were able to work together, not just in hunting and oaring, but also in warring. This, in later times, became known as the Vikings and were highly honored by the Byzantine emperor. Brought them in, even though they were pagans, to help. Because of their trustworthiness, they were hired as mercenaries to fight against the Muslims, and they were very good at that. The Muslims in Spain were unable to conquer the Viking settlements there. And the Vikings and the Scandinavians had come and dominated Russia, the Rus, when it was what now is Ukraine. That they went away and left the Russians to govern themselves, and they invited the Scandinavian Vikings back to rule them because they had so much conflict among themselves. But the Scandinavians were men of honor. We can understand that some men are honorable. It can be tend to be genetic, although that seems to fall away rather fast. If you look at Sweden today, But the reality of women being forced into marriage, much of their genetic millions of years, and being forced to have children as a product of rape for millions and millions of years, you can understand why they would develop, those that survived would develop ability to manipulate. They didn't have the physical strength to defend themselves, but you can find women liking a form of government where they can manipulate the leaders, the priest, the king, the government, women's liberation, and to gain control of the law over men, over their husband. It goes on over and over, even to the harm of the women, destroying their own. There's some research that seems to be lost now to the effect that modern women are very unhappy as compared to what they were earlier in the 1900s. So marriage, women and men, and marriage have to do with creating a safe place for children. This ends part 3. In this part, we have discussed mainly the differences in male and female behavior generated by the different temperature and daylight zones. The equatorial zone, mainly Africa; the middle latitudes, mainly the Fertile Crescent, India and China; and the northern group, which would be Europe north of the Alps, and Siberia north of the Himalayas.